The fast of Daniel is an opportunity for those who are seeking the baptism in the Holy Spirit and who've decided to completely disconnect from worldly information for a period of 21 days. To disconnect from entertainment, the news, and secular information. To immerse themselves into the things of God and enable themselves to receive the greatest possession they could ever find. The Fast of Daniel, from March 21st until April 11th, dedicating 21 days to listen only to the voice of the Holy Spirit.
When you hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, He leads you to the green pasture. Everybody knows this famous Bible verse, actually Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Is the Lord indeed your shepherd? Because if He is your shepherd, you need to be His sheep, because the sheep hears the voice of the shepherd. But how can you hear God's voice unless you have the Spirit of God? When you go to church, who preaches to you? The pastor. When you read the Bible, maybe you do not understand what you are reading. But when you receive the Holy Spirit, He becomes your pastor. He's the one that preaches to your ears, to your mind. The Holy Spirit becomes your shepherd. He leads you to the green pasture. He leads you to the right path, right relationship, right job, right decision. Many times in life, we get confused with so many options, A, B, C. But once you have the Holy Spirit Himself guides you. You have A, B, C options. He tells you clearly, go for B, or for A, or for C. He guides you. He is the guider. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Once He is your shepherd, meaning when you have His Spirit, He becomes your guider. In the field, the sheep hears the voice of the shepherd. Though it is an animal, but it can recognize, like the pet, recognize the voice of their owner. Once you have the Holy Spirit, He speaks to you, you hear His voice. I want you to see now the case of this young lady. She did receive the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit came upon her, and now He became her shepherd. She is His sheep.
When I was in school, I didn't have many friends. I was very alone, and I was bullied a lot. So that, caused me to feel like I was alone in the world. And because, everybody was against me, then I felt, like I was alone, like I had nobody. And so that caused me to be depressed. It caused me to, start having suicidal thoughts. In the outside, I was smiling, I was, happy, fine. And on the inside, like I was destroyed, like nobody knew what was going on inside. The only thing that really I started swaying away from was when I started, talking to people online, things like that. And that's when I started getting depressed, bullied, all of that. My lowest point was definitely when, even like having a family, I felt like I was alone in the world. I felt like I shouldn't exist. Like I had no reason to exist. And I remember that I was at home and I had come from school and I locked myself in my room, and the suicidal thoughts were hitting really hard that day. Really, really hard. It wasn't anything like special that happened about that day. It was just, I don't know, it was just something that took over me. And I was thinking, and I was like, no, I'm gonna take an action today. And as I was starting to get the courage to, prepare to actually hang myself, I don't exactly remember what happened, but somebody walked into my room, and in that moment, like I kind of snapped out of it. I took an action to come back to church. Like my brother had brought me back to church, and even though I didn't want to be in church, but I knew, right from wrong. I knew that what I was living was wrong. And I knew that my response, my answer would be going back to church, would be seeking God. And there was one day that in a preaching that my brother forced me to go to, basically, the pastor did say that, you know, you who wants a new life and you feel like you can't, like you don't know how to, your first step is you need to, you know, die to the bad things of the world, to the negative things that you do. And in that moment, I was like, well, you know, that's what I need. I'm not going to find peace anywhere else. I'm not going to be happy anywhere, because one of the things that really bothered me is I had a huge emptiness inside that I thought that could be filled with if I had friends, if I had a boyfriend, if I had, you know, a family who had, you know, we were more close. I always thought that if. So I started coming to church and I started involving myself in the youth group. And in the youth group, that's kind of where I found that strength to keep coming, because it wasn't something that was forced on me anymore. It was something that I enjoyed doing. And, you know, in youth group, besides finding, you know, that starting to see where that peace would come from, I also found friends, which I had never had. I did the chain of prayer for deliverance. One of the things that also bothered me a lot ever since I was, you know, younger was I used to have a lot of nightmares, and I would see, you know, spirits and hear voices. So when I did decide to make a change, I did talk to the pastor and I explained to him what was going on. And he told me that my first step would be that chain of deliverance, to rid myself from all that evil, that negativity that was trying to, you know, be a part of my life. So after I was delivered, I did start seeking the Holy Spirit, because I finally understood that that emptiness would only be filled once I received the Holy Spirit. So I did my own mini fast of Daniel, and I cut out everything, all of the sources, you know, from the world I cut out, and I was just me and him. Nobody knew, nobody had anything to do with it. It was just me and God. On the 14th to 15th day of August of 2009, in a vigil, I finally received what I had been looking for. In that day, a power, a presence, a peace just came over me, and I was filled. I was filled that all of that emptiness, everything I had suffered until then, you know, feeling rejected by everybody, all of that just faded away. I'm married to a man who does have the Holy Spirit. He received the Holy Spirit shortly after I received the Holy Spirit, actually. We love each other, of course, but we know that it's not us that completes each other. If it's not the Holy Spirit, then, you know, there is no completeness between both of us.